Hello guys and welcome back. So now we're going to look at how to combine the AOVs of a volume and how to break the various passes and combine them together to reproduce the beauty pass. So for this guy I have exported 6 AOVs, the 3 for the various lights and then 3 one emission, volume direct and indirect. So let's channel copy these and shuffle them. So target is C, source is ENV. Let's call this ENV, and let's create one for sun and the back. Okay, and then this one I'm going to call back. It's called sun 2. It's just the name is wrong. So this is the back, and then we have volume direct, which is all the direct hits for the volume, and then volume indirect. Let's call this indirect. Let's call this direct. And then we have the emission, which is just the temperature field by itself. Okay, so let's take this direct here. And this is the result of all the lights added together. We have all the lights here individually. Now, the only thing extra in here is the volume scattering is included in this pass. Okay, we're gonna see a slight difference between the two, and it's not a problem at this point. So this is all the lights combined, and this is the direct with no volume scattering from the lights. Okay, so now we've recreated pretty much this pass here, and then I'm going to add the indirect. Actually, let's do these guys together. So the indirect and then the emission. So these passes added together, they produce the fire pass with its illumination. So let's combine that with the main, and let's add this. And this is the main pass. There's a slight difference, and if you want the 100% the same result, you need to add the direct with no scattering or anything. Pardon me. And now we have the same result if you want to recreate the exact thing. But I'm not too worried about the extra addition of the scattering. I think it helps, so I'm going to leave it there. And now we have everything pretty much broken up. So I want to improve this guy because this is a very, very important pass, and I want to add to the glow here. So you can see everything is in the red channel. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shuffle everything to the red. I'm going to shuffle the red channel to everything, to the color basically. And I want to add contrast to this. I wanted to color correct it. So I'm going to create a color correct node. And I'm going to increase the contrast. Something like that. I'm going to blur it a bit because I don't want the same details. Say 10. Go with 10, and I'm going to add a color to this. So for now I'm going to give it a yellowish color, and let's see how that adds to the entire scene. I'm going to add it. This is not I'm not trying to create a glow effect. Sorry, not merge, but layer. Pardon me. So here I'm going to add all this, and you can see we're adding a glow to this guy, not everything but just here. So let's play with this a bit more. Let's set this to 4, and yeah, I think I just want to add another hint of red glowing, and it's gonna improve help with these guys as well. So let's play with the color a bit. something like that. Let's compare before and after. Again, I just want to add some glows. That's it. Okay, so let's add this back on, and let's disable and enable it to see the difference. See how nice it is here? It helps blend in the overall the overall emission. Cool, so all added together. It's before and after. I think that for this explosion, having all these lights is not helping, to be honest. So I'm going to turn off the back and the sun. I'm going to have the environment light only. Let's increase it maybe a tiny bit. Cool. So this is one version. And one thing you see a lot with explosions is you get a lot of dark black spots. So I'm going to try and do that. I'm going to use a color correct node. I'm going to add more contrast to this. Something like that. And then I'm going to add an HSV node and desaturate this. We need to uncheck this to work properly with the range higher than 1. So let's desaturate it a tiny bit. And let's say this is my new temperature, my new field. I'm going to connect that. And right now there is values here and there are negative values. We don't want that. We want to limit them. We want to clamp them. I'm going to put down a limit node. I want to clamp any negative values, and now when we add it, it's going to blend in nicely. But you see it's not mixing well with the rest because we're going crazy with how we're remapping it. So let's add some of the indirect from the original one. Okay, from this guy, I'm gonna add some of that back. So let's use an add node and let's mix it. Let's add a bright node. Something like that. And I think the sky is too bright, so let's set this to 0.5. Something like that, just to have something here. And you can see we took it from this version to this. And it really depends on the reference that you're trying to match or create. You can still do a lot of post-processing here. So this is one version, and I want to do another one that is a little bit more advanced. So with this pass, with this environment light, the light is pretty much hitting everything from the same angle. And it's like an occlusion pass. So if I desaturate this, okay, and brighten it up, we should see somewhat a uniform illumination on the volume. Okay, this is like a cavity map. We're getting some kind of occlusion in here. So let's invert this. And once we do that, we're starting to get this very, very interesting mask. We get this nice Fresnel-like effect. So, okay, let's try this. Let's use this information on top of this. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bright node and use this guy to try and grade this image. So under the mask here, I'm going to say I want to use the red channel from my second input, mask input. Okay, and let's change this. And let's play with this to make it more clear where it should where it should mask. So I'm gonna brighten it up. I'm gonna add a color correct pardon me, I'm gonna increase the gamma, sorry, lower the gamma, so it's only in specific areas, something like that. And let's use this to change the volume. Cool. So right now it's using this as a mask. I want to invert that. So here under the mask, I'm going to take on invert mask. And I'm going to start lowering the intensity. Let's play with these guys. And basically, this is not what exactly I wanted to do, but I wanted to show you guys how you can use these masks to improve the visual of the sim, of the render. And let's do this. Let's clamp. Let's limit this pass and multiply the two together, because I think this is cool. So let's multiply this by this. You can see we're getting more and more contrast. Sorry, not multiply. I'm going to use a layer node and set it to multiply. Cool. So now we're getting these cavities much more visible. We're getting more contrast on the render. Let's play with these guys. And again, it may not be something that you want to add, but I can definitely use this information to improve the volumes of the fire and the render itself. Okay, so this is one thing I wanted to show, but the real thing is this. When we look at this path, there is a lot of cavities. If we invert this and start grading it, you know what, let me multiply it by the alpha channel if we still have it. So under the invert, I'm gonna turn off alpha. I don't want to change the alpha channel, and then I'm gonna put down a pre-mult node. I want to multiply this by the alpha channel. So now we have everything masked with the alpha channel. The only thing is we need to clamp the alpha channel because it's being added in various places. So let's clamp the alpha channel. Cool. So this is the result. And let's continue grading this down. I'll show you guys. So here I'm going to copy this and paste relative reference so I can do this. All right. This is what I want. We're going to create a fake temperature, and it's going to look very, very cool. So I'm going to make another copy, and I'm going to grade this more. Something like that. This is level 1. It's level 2 and level 3. And for the edge here, I'm going to use an erode filter and shrink the alpha channel by 1 pixel. So under masks, I'm going to turn all these guys off. I'm going to shrink the alpha channel by 1 pixel and then multiply it again. So we fixed that edge. We can also, I think, maybe 2. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, let's add a color correct for each of these color corrects. And here, I'm going to give it a yellow tint. Super bright yellow tint. Something like that. Then this guy, we're going to give it a orange tint. Something like that. And then this guy, we're going to give a red, darker tone. It's too much red. Something like that. And let's add them together and see how they look like. Ooh, interesting. Okay, let's this guy. let's combine it with this now. With the environment light, we have something very, very cool. But it's not blending in nicely with this. Okay, because there is no blend in really. But let me clamp. Let me limit this. I wanted to stay between. I wanted to remove any dark values, and for positive, it's fine. So let's add a color correct to make the environment brighter and more visible. And let's brighten it up. So let's reduce the intensity of this part a bit. I want to see the environment better. It's not working here for some reason. It's not combining them nicely. Okay, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy the HSV into the alpha channel, the luminance into the alpha channel. So I'm gonna desaturate the image and shuffle copy the red into the alpha from the mask input, from the second input. So C.R, and now we have that. Let's see how that blends in. Let's use the over mode. It's still the same. I would have expected it to look much more interesting. But let me play this and show you guys how it looks with just the environment light. But let's add glow just to finalize everything. I'm gonna blur this, and this time I'm gonna make a smarter blur. So sorry, I'm showing you guys various things at the same time. I'm gonna gain this down a lot and then use this as the blur. So I'm gonna do a 3, a 10, and 100. And I'm going to desaturate it a bit every part, at every segment. And let's add all these together. And let's add them to the thing. Okay. I swear I would have expected the environment light to look much better, but for some reason it's not. But we'll fix it. Let's run a couple of frames and see how it looks. Okay, it's going. And again, this is no fire, nothing, just the environment light masked. Okay, I think it's working pretty well. And it's giving us all those nice darkening effects that we see in real explosions. Okay, let's take this further. We have indirect here, which is very cool. There's a lot of useful visual here. And we have something here as well. So let me copy these and see how we can make use of them. So with this pass, this pass, I'm going to use the HSV mask that we did, this guy, and I want to blur it and isolate any connection, anything inside that blur. So let me blur this guy. Let's increase it 100, and let me turn off the alpha. Let me remove the alpha. So I'm going to use a delete node, and this allows me to delete specific channels. Just want to make sure that it's not affecting the inputs. Okay, and here I'm gonna mask these two guys. So I'm gonna use a layer node. I'm basically going to multiply it. So whenever there is info here, it's going to mask the data. But let's brighten it up so it's more visible, and let's reduce the blur amount, maybe 20, 10. Yep, and then I'm gonna add that to this. Let's color correct it. And let's brighten it down so it's not very visible. Something like that. Before and after, just this glow here. And it's gonna change over time, of course. Maybe too much. Let's add this. Yeah, something like that. See how nice the glow is now? Cool. Let's brighten it up too. And let's see if it works now with the, yeah, it still does not. I'm not sure why. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing for the emission, and see if I can squeeze out any more detail. So let me pause and reopen the thing. Okay, so we're back, and let's see, we left off with this. Okay, so I wanted to do the same thing for the fire, to mask it by this blur thing. So let's copy and do the same thing here. Okay. And let's add that back in and copy the same call correction and same bright node as well. Okay. Maybe I think for the blur we can. No, I'm not going to change it. It's fine. So let's see what we have here. And let's reapply the same glow again. Not too much. So let's leave the same glow that uses this only, and then all this together, added. And let's add, let's try this. I still want, let's try these guys, the sun and back, and see how they blend in with the scene. So these two passes. We want the sun and the back. Let's try the back first, and let's add that. Cool. So yeah, I think the environment light is the trickiest one, and let's add the sun as well, and maybe add a color correction to it and give it a different color. Something like that. Let's reduce the brightness of the backlight 50%, and let's play a few frames and see what we get. And the trick here is you can you can create a fake temperature field by inverting the environment light. If it's very uniform, especially, you need to do a separate pass with just white sky dome and then invert that, and that would be your occlusion pass. And then you can invert it and isolate the cavities. The deeper it's inside the volume, the more the brighter it gets. And this is very, very hard to do within the sim, because if you use the cavity of the sim, it's going to change the whole sim drastically. So you want the sim to behave naturally, but then being able to create these darkening effects, really. These guys here, and then the center to be brighter. And again, there's not so much physicality about this pass. It's just we faked everything pretty much. And then the other thing is we can reuse the original fire and scattering to mask them with this new fire and combine all of that. So we still get details from the original sim, but also make our own. So this is how it looks like. And this is the most complex tips that I use to add additional details. You can see it here. And depends on the type of explosion. Again, not all of them do this interesting visual, but I think it's something that we used to see a lot. And most of the time with these explosions, you don't get a lot of lighting, so it's generally black. And this is just, I don't think it's realistic to have this light on, but I think it works. So I think this is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching, and see you in a bit.